What is this show even called?
I don't know, but you're on, bro.
Okay, you ready?
I am.
Yeah. I don't like that. Let's
Well, you
just
don't like
start.
the. Well,
What's up, Joel? Hey, Joel, we got a special guest on today. uh,
who is it, Jered?
dude, okay. We got like one of the most important people to me in my entire life because he manages my plumbing company. The general manager for my plumbing company. His name is Eddie Barkhurst. What's up, Eddie?
Yo, what up, guys? How's it going?
Good. How are you doing, boss?
Dude, I'm doing good. Spent the whole day so far uh, writing emails to upset customers.
Awesome. That's the best.
Is
Yeah.
Eddie? I got a question. Is what's your primary like mode when you're talking to upset customers? Like medium, email, phone, face to face.
Most of the time it's over email. That's the way the CSRs contact that customer. If he's upset about something, they send an email and then he usually responds to that email. So most of the time it's over email unless they specifically said they want to talk to me, then I'll give them a call.
Right.
Gotcha. Are you usually able to resolve the issues over email?
Um, if I do, it takes a lot longer. Um, Sometimes it can be, I guess I couldn't give a percentage, but yeah, it can be resolved over email. Sometimes it's just as simple as providing information that just wasn't provided either by the CSRs, who it's not their job to provide that
Sure,
technical
sure.
information. So I don't blame them for any of that, but maybe the technician didn't deliver all the information they should have, and maybe I can deliver that piece of information better than they got from the technician on site, or um, it depends.
Gotcha.
So, Eddie, you're
Yes.
like the most badass general manager ever.
Dude, you said that before. I have a hard time believing it because I've never done this before this job, but
Dude, you are.
I appreciate it.
I don't have to do anything, right? Like there's very little that I do for the company right now. It's pretty much all handled by you, which is pretty phenomenal, right?
I appreciate that. Yeah, especially since I used to make fun of guys that did this job. I was the tech in the field, and I would just constantly make fun of office workers because
Mhm.
they weren't they weren't as integral as I thought they were.
Yeah.
They didn't make as
Oh,
much of a difference as I thought they made.
Yeah. So let's talk
Now I
about that
became one.
like you started, tell me about how you started. Like where'd you get your start?
So I started doing this back in 2006, 2007 probably. I didn't even know that this was a profession. I was doing armed security at military bases at the time, and I got married in that time, and my wife said something one day. My Her dad, my father-in-law, is coming over for dinner tonight, and I said, okay, why? And she said, he wants to talk to you about a job. And I said, I've worked for family before. I'm not interested. Working for family sucks. It's a great way to cause trouble that doesn't need to be there. And she said, well, just listen to what he's got to say and just see what you want to do. So he came over with this pitch and he wanted me to do plumbing and heating service. And I said, I didn't even know this was a profession where I came from. If our heat broke, we were in the crawl space fixing it until it ran. Um, so I had no idea that you could hire somebody to come do this stuff that you're asking me to do. So don't expect much out of me. And he said, no problem, we'll train you. However, we got to train you. Um, just give it your best and we'll get you as much education as we can. And I said, okay. Oh 06, oh 07, I want to say it was, and I've been in the field up until I started working for you what was that, October of 21? Must have been
Mhm.
October 21. Yeah.
Yep. 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 And so in your time in the field, like you became, in my opinion, like definitely one of the better techs I've ever worked around. Um,
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate that. That was always my
you're
goal.
welcome.
I appreciate that.
So, but you're kind of a unique individual in the fact that you have this drive in you to be, good at whatever it is that you're doing.
Hmm.
And I think that's what makes you so good. What made you a really good technician? You were committed to being excellent at it. And I know we've had these talks a lot. And then that's why I wanted to bring you over to be general manager, even though I knew you're not, you don't have any general management experience. I
None.
knew you wanted to be excellent at whatever you did. And you're the kind of guy as well, the kind of like, you're all tattooed, you got the gauges in your ears, you kind of demand respect, right? And you're not the kind of person that's going to let people walk all over you.
Hmm.
And I think that's what has made you such a good general manager, like those two things. Um,
I appreciate that. I really do.
yeah. So, I mean, because I want to like talk to like people who maybe are in the situation of they're looking for a general manager. Those are kind of the traits you want. You want somebody that your guys aren't going to walk all over. You want somebody that's committed to doing a really good job and doing things well. Um, and then you're really good at following systems too. Like if I give you a way to do something, you're like, Jered said, do it this way. I'm doing it this way, which
Yeah.
is awesome, right? Because ultimately, as a plumbing business, you want to go in and systemize your business so that you don't really have to be involved and you can go do other things. And if you've got a guy that will follow the system, will take ownership of the system, will try to be excellent at the system, and then not let everybody walk all over him, you've got a good general manager, in my opinion.
Dude, then you're right. I am good at this.
Dude, you are. You are good at it. I'm telling you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be there.
No, I appreciate it. I'm not good at taking compliments, and some of the time I don't hardly believe it, but I appreciate that.
Yeah. No, you're definitely good at it. That's for sure. You're better in that position than I was because I don't follow systems very well.
You want to
And
break your own rules?
yeah, I do. I want to break my own rules. And then I'm too nice to people. I'll let them walk all over
Well,
me. Yeah, it's terrible.
I've never been accused of being too nice.
Yeah, I know. It's rad. So I don't know if you knew this, but like I wanted you to be my general manager. I always had that in mind for quite a while. I want to say
So
probably a good year or so.
you talked to me when you first started this back up.
Hmm.
You talked to me about being a tech for you, and
Yep.
that had its own complications. Even though I wanted to immediately
Uh-huh.
come right over and start working here, there was political reasons and other
Yeah.
complications why I couldn't, but
Yeah.
I
I don't
really
blame you.
wanted to right away. Um, but I never once saw myself, I never wanted to be in a position where I had power or authority over somebody. Never
Uh-huh.
once wanted
Uh-huh.
that. So I never pictured myself. And then, like I said, I made fun of people that were in the office all the
Yeah.
time. So I
Yep.
certainly didn't want to become one.
Yeah.
But
But here you are.
now I'm exactly that. Yeah.
You're the office worker that's like, it's cold in here.
Dude, the thermostat's set at 72, and I go check it every once in a while to see who's messed with it.
Yep.
It's still at 72. I'm just getting soft.
Yep.
Nobody.
That's awesome.
I used to
That's
be on
rad.
rooftops all winter long doing this type of stuff,
Hmm.
working on gas equipment, and now it's 72 inside, and
Uh-huh.
I'm suffering.
Yeah.
Just
Perfect.
put your bibs on, Eddie. Like I'm sure you got a pair around. Just like chuck those bad boys on.
Like office bibs,
Yeah, normal bibs, you know. Just put 'em
pinstripes on them or something.
Dress bibs.
Yeah, but they're like Carhartt insulated, you know,
Right.
rated to 40 below. You're just be real warm.
Yeah.
So at your last place of employment, we won't mention names, but they did things differently, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Completely differently. So what was that like coming over, you know, I talk all the time like you got to price your business right, which most businesses don't price their business right. So like the last place you worked, they were offering work way too cheap.
Yeah.
They didn't have a system in place to really handle the job, take care of the customer, make sure stuff got billed out correctly. answer the phones correctly, all that kind of stuff. What was it like coming over when you finally did come over? Coming over to Prospector, like seeing the pricing, seeing the system. What was your initial reaction?
Uh, you want my honest
Yeah,
opinion or my honest
yeah.
answer? So my initial reaction was you price this stuff how? This is it costs this much to do this service?
Hmm.
Dude, you're going to have to sell it to me. You're going to have to make me a believer because for all the years in the past, I've done all of this stuff for way less, and it
Hmm.
was all time and material before.
Hmm.
And if I went to my customers that requested only me at my last job, and I told them, hey, price used to be this, but now it's this. Um, I I wouldn't get any work.
Hmm.
I feel like those types of prices, the people that called us regularly would never see those types of prices, and so I
Hmm.
was not a believer in the pricing,
Hmm.
and and I specifically remember telling you on one of those first days, dude, you're gonna have to sell this to me, make me a believer, because right now I would never pay that for this at
Right.
all. Um, and your response was, well, of course you wouldn't. You'd do it yourself, which is absolutely true. I don't hire anybody to do
Right.
hardly anything for me. I just do it myself.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I was not a believer to start with. I didn't think that it was um, possible to sell work structured that way, just because my experience was nobody paid for work like that.
Hmm. Right.
Um, but since then my attitude's changed, and it's gone from no one's going to pay for that to I can't believe we sold all of that work and all of that time and effort for such a small amount of money.
Right. Yep. So
Spent a
like,
full day in an attic or in somebody's air handler room and just tearing that place apart, and the bill in the end was a couple grand or something like that. And I'm like,
hmm,
looking at it now, that was way underpriced.
right. And now you kind of see the value of pricing correctly as well, right? Like
Absolutely.
you see what it's like to work at Prospector and what the customers get when they deal with Prospector versus what it was like working at your last place of employment and what the customers get when they hire that company.
Hmm.
Totally different.
It is different. Yeah, it's a lot different in the services that Prospector provides compared to a lot of other places.
Hmm.
Um, uh, the Prospector doesn't provide everything that every other company provides.
Right.
I just got done writing an email to a lady, super happy with everything that we did, but she's saying that she upset because we don't do after hours call outs.
Hmm.
Every company that I worked for before did after hours call outs. That's the one thing that Prospector doesn't do, but there's this big long list of things that we do that other companies do not do.
Right.
Um, so it is different, but I think it's all good in the way that it's different.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Like even just like the last place you worked probably didn't make any money ever. Right. And so I worked there as well, and I remember what it was like, and it was just like
Hmm.
this weird chaos where nobody really knew what was going on. I didn't even really know what I was supposed to be doing or how I was supposed to be doing my job. I was kind of just making it up on the spot.
Sure.
Versus then at Prospector, it's pretty clear. Like this is how you go about your job. You know, you've got Service Titan. Everything's pre-built in Service Titan.
Hmm.
We expect these things out of you. There's constant training.
You
There's
can
all sorts of
trace
that.
those metrics and see if those milestones are met, or if that performance is met, which
Right.
could never be done before. It was always just a guess at
Yeah.
the other companies I worked for.
Yeah. So one of the aspects of your job that you didn't really expect having to do, I think, was like managing people. Yeah.
Dude. No, so I think about this a lot. You and Christelle took me and my old lady to dinner, and we talked
Mhm.
about this. And I'm sure that that topic was discussed, but in
Uh-huh.
my brain, I was like, managing people, don't know nothing about that. I'm not going to pay attention to that part. My
Yep.
job's going to be troubleshooting with the techs, I'm sure. They
Mhm.
need they need
Mm.
tech technical support that I have probably seen and I can provide. That'll mostly be what I do, and I just totally erased that managing people portion from my memory altogether
Yep.
and did not even want to address it. But then I was faced with it, had no choice. Now I have to.
Mm.
That was quite a surprise.
And now it's kind of that's like the majority of your job, would you say?
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say that's a majority of the job. Yeah.
Just managing people.
Yeah, there's a little bit of data entry type stuff that I got to do or research type stuff that I got to do, but
Mhm.
that's tiny compared to having to figure out how to work with
Mm.
different peoples and their personalities and their changing attitudes and whether or not they think they can do something, a task, or uh, I'm only going to do plumbing. I'm the plumbing guy. I do plumbing. No, no,
Mhm.
no, not if you work here. You don't. And so then there was the challenges of establishing that if you work here, you do these other things. But then that part was easy, right? That's just all I got to do is say those sentences and it's
Right.
done, right? But then I quickly realized that I had to go from just say this thing to them to make them believe that they can do that themselves. And that
Right.
was a challenge I was not prepared for.
Right. Yep.
Mm.
So I'd say you've done a pretty good job at that though. Like you've had some pretty good like wins with some of the guys.
Yeah, I have. And it's been cool to see their growth. It's been cool to see different guys' personal growth go from I can't do that. That was never talked about when I started here. I'm not going to do that. This is what I'm good at. And
Mhm.
then I I had my conversations with them and said that nope, this is what is going to happen, and kind of took a little bit of a hard line,
Mhm.
um, and I saw what that bought
Mm.
him, or I guess that got me him thinking about doing it and kind of willing to put in that effort, but really having no guidance on where he should go. And I saw that now my new challenge is I've made him make that turn, but now I have to guide him or lead him towards success rather than just let him wander aimlessly until he accidentally figures it out. That's not going to
Right.
work.
Right.
Mm. Mm.
Yep.
Mm.
That's cool. It's cool to see it's cool to see you do that, like have an effect on these guys' lives. Cuz ultimately you're like turning them into better people, right?
I had no intention, like I said, I had no desire to be the boss of anybody
Mhm.
ever.
Mhm.
I just wanted to. I went from making sure that I did what I knew I was supposed to do in the field, and now all of a sudden, we got 7 guys and 2 CSRs. Make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Okay. I don't know how to do any of that. Um,
Right.
uh, so the idea that I was the boss of somebody, fine. If you want to phrase it like that, fine, I'm the boss, but I don't want to be. I'm certainly not going to just yell and point and get these people to do what we need them to do. There's got to be more to it than that.
Mm.
And so then that's where I guess I could see the need for me to have to be more of an influence on them. I don't want to say I'm an influencer, but uh, I can see that my tech support questions are helpful, or when I can
Mhm.
answer tech support questions, yeah, that's helpful. Data entry, send in emails or whatever, that stuff is helpful. But if I really want the most out of these guys, I'm going to have to be more than just that.
Yep.
And that was tough.
Yeah. You're like Big Daddy around there.
One of them calls me Papa.
Oh, dude, I would stop that right away.
You might not be able to. That might be just
I'd be like,
stuck,
no way.
you know?
I think
You might just have to He's got to lean into it.
yeah, that one's too deeply seated. There's no changing that.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, cool. I mean, again, I think you're awesome at it. It's pretty cool.
I appreciate that. I do my best. I want to be. I'm a believer in this system. Like I said, I wasn't at first. It was tough for me to buy into it. I know what it is that you asked me to do, and it wasn't that or the money or the responsibility that got me over here. It was I was ready for a change. First of all, I'm an old man and my body's starting to hurt, and the idea of getting out of the field makes sense. But it was,
you know what got you over here? I took you to buy guns. That's what got you over here. You're like, dang, Jered just dropped $5,000 on guns, just like that.
At the time, I've thought about that a lot lately, and I don't know why it just cropped up lately. But at the time, I was like, of course I'm going to take him to go buy guns. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
That's something I love to do, and I think he should love to do it as well. Yep. And so I was like, dude, this will be great. I'm changing his mind, and so he's gonna love this world too.
Yep.
And then you took me, and I was like, dude, this is going great. We talked a little bit about work on the way down there, and then it was shortly after I started here, I was like, dude, I think that was all part of the plan.
It was like casting my line.
This had nothing to do with him buying or owning guns. This was just a part of the plan.
No, it was like a mixture. I did want to buy some guns, and I was like, I should take Eddie to buy guns because Eddie knows about guns, and I want to build a better relationship with Eddie because I want you to come work at Prospector.
It worked.
It was like a double-edged sword. It was a win-win in my mind.
It worked. It was a win-win. I like where I work now, and I like the environment and your pursuit of excellence. I love that. So it did work.
Yeah.
It kind of seems like that the moral in that story is like if you're the plumbing business owner looking for a GM and you know a guy who might not be willing to come over, that to pursue that person with persistence, but not in like a completely fake way. Like Jered said, he wasn't just like, I hate guns, but I need Eddie, so I'm going to go buy some guns or whatever. Sure. But in a way where there's this honesty of building a relationship, but all those things help. And like, if you wouldn't have came over to Prospector when you did, I'm sure Jered would have been like, well, I'll just keep pursuing because he saw in you what he wanted and he saw it for a long time. So, because I mean, like, if you're going to settle on a position within your company, I feel like the GM is probably not the person you want to settle on.
No,
because
absolutely not.
That's going to dictate culture. That's going to dictate production. That could be your biggest tool in your toolkit as a business owner, or it could be like the most harmful thing. Because I've worked for a company where the GM was not anything of what you are, and it was tough. You have to really work around that person's humanity to like get your job done, and it sucks. It's a really hard environment to work in. So
it's just hard to work for poopy people, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like if you were to put a poopy person in your spot, and by like, I mean like not a good person, right?
Yeah.
Not a quality person that wants to do a good job, and that like there's these people that come to work and they don't want to do a good job, and they've got bad character traits, and maybe they yell at people, or I don't know, whatever. Like you could bring somebody in like that, and it would just be a total mess. They might make a great technician. They might make a great CSR. They might make a great apprentice or whatever. But in that general manager position, you really need somebody that's going to like be a good person, that has good character deep down. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, because really they're going to be influencing everybody else in the company, because someone goes to you, Eddie, and they're like, hey, Eddie, I need help with this or whatever, and then you're going to influence them by the answer you give and how you give that answer, and then they're going to go like, oh well, Eddie just cussed me out, so that's what I can do to my coworkers, and then I can just do this, and it sort of just bubbles out from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they do it to the customer.
Yeah.
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 So,
I think there's a lot of truth in that.
so what's the least favorite part of your job as a general manager?
Least favorite part. Oh boy, I would say the least favorite part, the thing that bothers me the most is dissatisfied customers. And it's not necessarily because the customer um, I like to find out what they're dissatisfied about, and
Mm-hmm.
I want to fix that. I treat all of that as uh, like a machine that's broken. I can fix the machine that's broken, guaranteed.
Mm.
And so then I approach those situations as if I can fix it, but I have the variables of humans that I don't always factor in, and so maybe I'm a little bit dumb in that. I want to go and I want to fix that and make it never happen again. I want to learn the lesson that there is to learn from that dissatisfaction, and then disseminate that to the guys so that we can all avoid that in the future. And sometimes you can logically get to the bottom of it and actually learn the lesson, whatever the customer's dissatisfied with, and then pass that on to the guys. Those ones are great. I love those. Um, but it's the ones where there is no lesson to be learned, and I have a really hard time dealing with that. I don't know. In my mind, there is, if we get to the bottom of this, I can figure out what it is that you're upset about, and we can find a conclusion or a solution to this that works for everybody. But there are certain personalities that just want to be angry, and that's their whole goal is, I'm angry and I want you to know about it.
Mm.
I can't work with that. I can't
So
deal with
we've had
that.
this conversation before. Like, isn't it wild how many customers there are? Like, we don't have a ton of angry customers, but it's like,
No.
and we usually can work with the customer to resolve the issue, to make them happy. But there's this small percentage of customers that are just unreasonable.
Yes.
And it's unreal to me how many of those customers there actually are, right? Like,
Hmm.
I didn't even know these people existed until I started a plumbing business.
They're
Like
not
the
the type of person that I would ever interact with
no,
outside of
no, they're
this.
not. Because I imagine like those people, they live a terrible life. Like they live in a terrible world, right? After interacting with them, I'm like, man, how do you like? They think so strange to me to
Hmm.
do the stuff that they pull with our plumbing business. It's
Yep.
unreal. Like like for example, we get people, and you know this, but for our listeners, we get people that call us up, have us come to their house, um, and then we give them an estimate. They sign the paperwork that they agree to pay the estimate. They agree the work needs to be done. We do the work, and then they sign saying that the work was done to their satisfaction. We bill them. They pay with their credit card. They sign their credit card statement, and then they go on to their credit card company and they do a chargeback on that.
Yeah.
And they've known it the whole time. Like that's
Oh,
their
wow.
game. That's what they do.
Yeah. From the beginning, they had to have been thinking, I'm
They're
just
all
no problem. I'll take care of this recurring charge with a
mhm.
chargeback.
Yep, all friendly. Yay, I'm so happy. Thank you so much. Chargeback. Yeah,
Hmm. And then,
wild.
so I dealt with some chargebacks lately, and the
Uh-huh.
thing that I had to call because, again, I'm just a dumb tech from the field. I don't understand these office
Yeah,
terminology and
all
stuff
the
like that.
credit card lingo.
I called to ask them about a couple of chargebacks, and I know I filed the online rebuttal just like the program says you're supposed to. I turned in all my paperwork, and when I looked at those documents, it said, "Yep, we got all your paperwork." But then there was something weird unresolved, and so I called, and they said, oh yeah, that just shows that you presented compelling evidence, so we're going to give you that money back. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
sweet. So I won. I said, so what happens with that $15 fee on every chargeback? Oh, you don't get that back. You still
Yeah.
have to pay that.
Why doesn't the customer pay that?
I don't know.
I don't
I
know
don't
either.
know.
Yeah.
That's
Hmm.
frustrating to me.
Seems like
Huh.
whoever loses should have to pay that.
I
Yeah.
completely agree.
I
I
agree
should
too.
charge for us representing you, they said.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Huh.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate that.
Sorry, I might have
Well,
took that
probably
different direction.
realistically, it's probably because the fight with the customer would probably be a lot more difficult than the fight with the business, because the business has guaranteed, well, not guaranteed, but probably has resources to foot the bill, where the customer's like, I can't pay $15. What are you talking about?
Oh,
I'm not going to pay
maybe.
that. Like, I'm going to sue, or they wouldn't get very far with that. I'm going to use a different credit card, or just have a really long conversation that makes somebody very mad at the credit card company. And so they
Sure.
go to the business and they're like, "Hey, business, you can pay $15, right? Even though it's like completely unjust and unfounded, you got it, right?"
Sure. Yeah.
That's my guess, at least.
Yeah, probably. All right, I got one last question before we wrap up.
All right.
What is it like for people looking for general managers? Because I get this question all the time. They're like, they've got their plumbers, they're paying them well, and then they go hire a general manager, and for some reason they can't figure out how to like get somebody to do the job, or somebody comes and does the job, but they can't get them to stay. They end up quitting, right? Because it's not the easiest job in the world. You got to
Mhm.
manage people. You got to deal with grumpy customers. You got to handle pricing and spreadsheets and all that stuff. And you got to deal with crazy business owners. Um, so, what is it like? What keeps you in the position that you're in? Like, what keeps you there, dedicated to your job, day in and day
Mm,
out?
Dude, that's a tough one. So what keeps me here is, like I said, the pay is nice. I like the pay. I I make more than I ever made as a tech, so that part's nice. Um, I was paying all my bills before as a tech, so I'm advancing economically. I'm able to have savings like I never had before, so that part's nice. But really, the thing that keeps me here is the environment. It is a stressful job, and there are days where I go home and I'm just like, dude, I have had enough. I can't believe it feels like Friday, but tomorrow's Wednesday, and I don't want any more days like what I just had,
Right.
um, and I need that weekend off. But the environment that's built here is different than any place I've ever worked, um,
Hmm.
and the attitude of of this business is really you, what you set up, is an environment of excellence, pursuing excellence. It's not. I hate mediocrity. I hate being okay at something. I'd be pissed if somebody said, "Oh yeah, Eddie's pretty okay at his job." That
Mm-hmm.
pisses me off. I've worked my ass off to become what I am now, um, to be good at what it is that I do. Um, at my other places I've worked, I talked to the business owner to figure out what it is that they need, or I saw a need that they had that needed fulfilled, and I said, I'm going to do that. Their ACR guy was moving out of state, and so then the business would not have an ACR guy, and I said, my path to success is to be that ACR guy, and I'll just become so valuable that they can't get rid of me. And while that did happen to be true, they couldn't get rid of me. They needed me to do the stuff that I did. Um, it was a huge benefit to them, but it was a huge benefit to me. And I think that's kind of where I found my desire to be excellent. You have that built here. That's your goal here,
Mm-hmm.
is for this place to be excellent, the best plumbing and heating company. And I've worked places where they were just like, yeah, I'm okay being middle of the pack, and that's not my style. So
Right.
an environment like that, I think, is huge for me myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Do you feel freedom there as well?
Yeah. Well, of different aspects. I feel
Mm-hmm.
freedom from you.
Mm-hmm.
I know that a lot of the decisions, if I were to call you, hey man, help me make this decision, you'd say, make it for whatever you think is best, make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel I'm not micromanaged, which is
Mm-hmm.
good. I can make those decisions, and then the repercussions of that decision, it hits everybody in the company if I chose wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but I know I'm not going to get beat down for it.
Yeah.
And and I know that, and because of that, I can feel the weight of that. I really work to make sure that I am making the right decision. Um, Knowing that even if I do make the wrong decision, you'll back me up on it. And we'll learn the lesson of that one together.
Yep.
But then I don't feel any kind of freedom when I say, dang, I think I'm gonna go make some lunch, and I walk upstairs for a few minutes. As
Yep.
soon as I sit down, the phone rings and somebody's like, hey, I need your help with
Yeah.
whatever. So there's
Yep.
no freedom in that aspect. If I
Right.
go to run a few errands, there's no freedom because I'm gonna get calls the whole way.
Yep.
But there's a ton of freedom in the other aspects where it's my call to make. I know the direction you want this to go in. I know what it is that you're looking for.
Hmm.
And I know that you don't want to be bothered by these little BS questions throughout the day. You don't need to be bothered with those little BS questions throughout the day. So it's up to me to make that decision. And I don't take it lightly. A lot of the decisions, I I might spend more time on them than I should, but
Maybe.
I don't take them lightly, I guess, is the
Yep.
point.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
just because I do know that whatever I do is either going to set the tone for what's going to happen in the future, or if this comes back to bite us, then who knows the ripple effect that it's going to have.
Right.
Hmm.
Yep. Yeah. I've always been a big fan of like saying, hey, this is the goal. This is the end goal. Here's maybe a few steps you can follow to get there, like real simple,
Hmm.
but then it's on you.
Hmm.
You
Same,
get to
yeah.
figure out how you want to get there. And I'm
I'm not
totally
going
cool
to
with
tell
that.
you every step that you
Choose
got
your
to
own
take in
adventure.
between.
No,
Yeah, exactly.
and that's really because I don't want to have to do that. Like um, I'll admit it. I'm like kind of lazy, right? I don't want to have to take all your questions. I don't want to micromanage you. And it's so much easier if you just trust people to say, if you just give them the goal and say, that's where we're going. This is my vision. Let's go.
Dude,
See you
if I
later.
got to be there with you every step of the way from start to finish, then one of
Hmm.
us is not necessary. And I got
Exactly.
bad news for you. It's not me that's not necessary. It's you that's not necessary. So if I got to
Yeah.
take you there,
Uh-huh.
then that's not a good sign for you. I like to
Hmm.
put guys in that position where I say, this is what you have, and this is what it needs to look like in the end. Make it that. And then they're going to do whatever they do to make it that.
Yep.
If it makes it there, great. Sometimes there's tweaks along the way, but
Yep.
then they have to exercise their problem solving skills along the way. They're going to be horribly inefficient the first time they do it, but if they're worth keeping, if they're worth if they're going to be a good tech, then they're going to recognize those inefficiencies, and it's never going to be like that again.
Right.
That was horribly inefficient, but they're never going to run it like that again, which
Right.
is a good indication, I think.
Yep. 100%. Well, cool. It was cool having you on here.
Hey, thanks,
Yeah.
man.
Thanks, Eddie.
Appreciate it, boss.
It's very
Appreciate
cool.
it, guys. I'm down for this.
Again, you're the general manager of a lifetime.
Hey,
I
man.
appreciate it a lot.
I'm glad. I'm glad that I could be that because, like I told you, I did not feel. If you'd have asked me on day two, I'm sitting back here in my little cubicle by myself. If you'd
Uh-huh.
have asked me on day two, are you going to stick this out? I don't know what the answer would have been.
Uh-huh.
I did not feel like I belonged here at all. I
Oh.
felt like
Uh,
I would serve you better out in a truck.
yeah.
Hmm.
No way, not anymore.
There are plenty of days where I feel like that, dude. Schedule's
I'm
getting wild.
I'm sure you'd kill it in a truck, but you're definitely more valuable in the office, that's for sure.
I appreciate that.
All right. Well, see you later, everybody.
See you guys.
See ya. Thanks.
Hey guys, if you liked that episode and you want to see more content like that, I picked out a special episode just for you All you got to do is click right here. Go ahead and do it. Just click right there.